The off chance. I'm going to check it's going live into the group as we speak.
It's working.
And marvelous. Okay, good. So we're up and running. I see a Dennis on the call. Very nice. Can you hear me, Dennis?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Sí, se puede.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, cool. So if anybody is watching the Facebook Live in the group right now, this is your chance to come and join us, so that you should find a link. In fact, I'll just pop the link underneath the... oh my word, that's not the right one.
I really like your poster, Nick. That's a cool.
It's cool, isn't
poster.
it? I actually should listen to the album. I haven't actually listened to the actual album that it's from, but it's no, it's very funky. Makes me feel like a jazz musician. That's the main thing. So.
I'm sure quite soulful if Miles Davis is on it.
Oh yeah, I bet.
He had some chops.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Okay. So we've... Yeah, if you're watching and you want to join us at some point later on the call to be able to ask questions, and that's cool. The link should be underneath all the posts I've put, and also on the live that we're doing now. So welcome if you're live with me on the call, particularly to Victor and to Dennis right now. I'm sure there'll be a few others as well later on. As you're here, where are you in the world? Where are you in the world, Victor?
I'm from Brazil, São Paulo, Brazil.
Nice. And Dennis, where are you?
I am in the beautiful Napa Valley of California.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Awesome. So it's an international call, even if there's only 3 of us here. It's quite
Right.
beautiful.
It's very easy to do that. I found that out with my radio station. I was interviewing singer-songwriters, and I ended up doing a lot of Canada, the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, a lot of folks over there. I actually interviewed a couple of folks in Ireland and a couple in the US. So it's a lot of fun.
Beautiful. Well, listen, here's the plan for tonight. So what I'm going to do is pretty much do the thing as a presentation to you guys, because I know that some people won't be able to join us for the live and will only be able to watch it sort of later on the replay. But anybody who is either here now or joins us later, or even if you're in the Facebook group and want to pop a comment on there, I'll either answer it on this call whilst we're doing it, or I'll answer sort of later. But I want this to be a conversation. Although I'm going to be presenting a few things, the purpose of this is to make it useful. So on the one hand, I'll be doing everything I can to sort of point you to things which I've found to be impactful for clients. But also I've noticed that when clients show up, or when people sort of hop on a call with me for some advice, like some people pour more of themselves into the process. So the more fully you can show up, and the more you can kind of like make notes or that kind of thing, it just seems to help people get further forward if you've got some kind of skin in the game, as it were. So what I'm going to do, see if I can actually make this happen. There we go. I'm going to start a screen share, and that's not that. Get rid of that, and I'm going to do this. Okay, cool. So can you see my slides? I hope you can see
Yes.
the slide. Marvelous. Okay, cool. So folks, if you've got any questions, just save sort of questions till the end, just for now. And I'm going to just sort of go through the presentation with you, and then there'll be a chance I might ask a few questions as we go. So so I've called tonight's workshop "The Foundations of Building Your Audience: An Essential Guide for Musicians and Music Industry Professionals." So what I'll do first of all with you is just let's have a look at what we're here to do, what's in store for us in the next 60 minutes. So I want to cover 2 things really. So number one is the problem, and really the 3 limiting beliefs that hold musicians back from having the impact that they'd like to have in the world. And the second is the solution to this, the three essential components of growing, engaging, and monetizing your audience. So I'm conscious that you may have heard people sort of talk about this kind of thing before. So I just want to share a little bit about who I am and sort of why I'm doing this in this way, and give you a little bit of background about me, because you may find it helpful to understand a bit more of that. So my name's Nick Bottini, and I'm a best-selling author and transformational coach to music industry professionals, and my clients include rock stars, Grammy winners, competition winners, and gigging musicians, and many others. And I'll give you a background, a little sort of potted history, so that some of what I'm saying makes sense. And I'm conscious that I actually haven't shared a lot of this in the group before, so I want to share it with you, really. So back in 2005, I studied music. I graduated from the University of Leeds, and violin performance was really my main thing. And then for various reasons, I decided I wanted to go into teaching. In 2007, I qualified as a classroom teacher, but I did quite an extensive training as a teacher, because I was fascinated by the psychology and the physiology of learning and kind of embodying music. So I didn't just do a one-year teacher training program. It was really, I did a 2-year PGCE, focusing on specialist strings teaching pedagogy, which included Dalcroze Eurythmics and Kadai. So I'm saying that because I want you to know that my commitment to my own development as a musician and the craft of learning has been something that has always fascinated me, and I've always seen the value in going deep into my own development, not only as a musician but as a teacher as well. So after I'd completed that training, and I found it really transformational training, actually really transformed my relationship with music. I became a leader in schools. So I was a head of music at 2 London schools, and teaching and mentoring thousands, literally thousands of young people. And it was really the mentoring part that I really fell in love with. I loved seeing young people, and also some of my colleagues and adults and performance colleagues, go through a transformation. So I kind of got the bug. And in 2014, I decided that I was going to change direction in my career, and began, I suppose, what you could call an apprenticeship to become a professional coach. So it started with me training with one of Tony Robbins's mentors, Dr. Richard Bandler, and then spent 3 years at the Clarity Academy. And to this day, I'm always immersed in having my own coaching and my own studying. It's just something, I just want you to know that this is something that it's not a new thing to me by a long way. Like I've been fascinated by human psychology and the art and science of learning and transformation for a long time now. And it was a long time before I actually formally trained to become a coach. And so that was part of my transition. And then since 2017, I've been doing this full time as a coach, a speaker, trainer, and still gigging, playing the saxophone now more than violin, but I'm still active as a performing musician, working with musicians from the very top of the industry to the very beginnings of the industry, and some students and what have you. And of course, I wrote the book Just Play in 2018, which became a #1 bestseller. So why are you here? Why all that? It's all very good talking about me, but I want this to be really useful to you. So can you see the screen okay, folks? Are you seeing the screen share okay? Is that all good?
Yes.
Just checking that it's actually visible quite easily. Okay, cool. So what I put as the title before, what I've noticed in the work that I've been doing with people is that there's so much conflicting information out there. It can be really overwhelming. And so on this slide, where it says, what are the secrets to actually growing, engaging, and monetizing your audience? The reason I've said actually is because if you're like your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed is anything like mine, I get bombarded by ads because I'm in the musician bracket, sharing lots of tips and tricks and ideas, and lots of marketers kind of screaming at me, telling me what I need to do. But as far as I can tell, no one else is talking about some of the most fundamental parts of that process. So we can get very hung up on strategies to kind of spike an algorithm, or we can get very hung up on like copywriting techniques and what have you. But my assertion, and I really didn't realize this when I first started running an online business, but my assertion to you is that, regardless of the tactics, in other words, like the tools and the tricks, there's something much more fundamental going on beneath the surface, that if you don't know about this stuff, these fundamental underpinnings, then it's possible to kind of follow someone's advice with the techniques and the tricks, but to miss the heart of why you're doing it. And something about it will feel off, or you'll find yourself burning yourself out. And this has saved people a lot of time. And when I've revealed this to my group program clients, and of course, we go into a lot more depth than we're going to be able to go into tonight. But when people have noticed some of these things that aren't really spoken about that much, then they found that they have less of a need for the tricks, because they can figure it out for themselves. And then they know what to Google, or they know who to ask, because there's a solid reason for why they're doing those things, right? So what I've said there is, I just encourage you to grab a pen and paper, because I want you to leave this workshop with something that you can go and apply. So I'm not saying that necessarily everything's going to change in the 60 minutes, but if you leave here with just one insight or one action that you can then take and apply in your music business or in your music career, then I will have considered that a worthwhile use of our time, right? So I'd encourage you to stay to the end, because there'll be a chance for some Q&A, and I'll be giving away a bonus audio to people that will supercharge your ability to make an income. It's really, really a great one. So yeah, just to reiterate that this is about foundational business laws. It's not just about opinions or nice ideas. And you might hear that and go, okay, yeah, Nick, of course, that's just a fancy way of saying pay attention to my ideas. But what I'm saying to you is, like, if you stop and think about it for a moment, when somebody goes on a buying journey, in other words, if when you first encounter an artist, or you first encounter a business, or you first see an advert, or you first meet somebody, right? Isn't it true that there must be commonalities between that buying journey? Aren't there certain things that need to be in place for every purchase, for every kind of relationship to form? So that's my assertion, is like, regardless of whether you disagree or agree with some of the things that I say, let's look for fundamental truths about what it takes for someone to go from being completely random to being, in the fandom bracket, being one of your fans, and someone not only who likes what you do, but actually takes action on it and pays you for something, right? So to kind of help explain that this, that there's some street cred to what I'm saying, and there's also a track record, and also this is stuff that people have used. I'm not just kind of making this up. It's not just a little sort of PowerPoint presentation I've sort of flung together. I just wanted to sort of share a few perspectives from a few previous clients. So first one's Bruce, who he said, I suppose we could say we've taken a startup to a £5 million business in 2 years, but that's not interesting compared to actually enjoying life. So Bruce is someone who had the much of the kind of business structure together. But it was mostly the work we did was mostly about the mindset piece and sort of how to manage energy around that thing. The next one's Bloom Dewild, who is a multi-platinum selling artist who had a big #1 in the UK. Is currently in the UK performing at festivals, and she said she's someone who went through the Domino Group program, and she said something which I always perceived as a necessary evil has now become part of the creative process in a most enjoyable way. Being able to experience others being coached made me realize how, despite being all so different, many of us share the same core struggles and obstacles. So again, I'm sharing this because this isn't just you. these are fundamentals. These are kind of universals. And the last form of current client is Nicholas Lockwood. He said, I learned a lot about how I present myself to the world, how I communicate with others, and how I sometimes ineffectually solve problems. It's definitely a wagon worth getting on a journey worth taking with a driver who knows his stuff. Okay, very nice. So, so this is a question that, if you've got a pen and paper handy, or you'd like to pop your answer into the chat, what is it that has you here today? I know that obviously there's a title, and I've set the frame for the thing, but what has you here? Obviously the more you interact and the more we can work closely together today, the more I'll be able to help you. So if you could just pop in the chat, what has you here? I'm just going to stop the screen share, but what has you here? I'll read it. Some of the, we just rather than speaking it, if we could just pop the chat, pop it into comments, I'll just read through some of these, because I'm conscious there may also be some in the on the live stream as well. I'm going to see if there's any comments on the live stream there. Not there. Okay, so Michael says, I'm here to begin creating a marketing strategy before I release my debut album. So obviously the more I know about this, in this, the more I can sort of fine tune what we're doing to be relevant to you. We've got Matthew Green, great. So Dennis says, so much I don't know, here to get awareness of the possibilities. Great stuff. Okay, Sarah says to get more of an organic following. Nice one. Okay, cool. So there's probably a few people just joining us as well. Haven't heard from Nate yet. Haven't heard. Okay, Ashish, good to see you, Ashish. To make more money. Nice, I like it. Pulling no punches. That's the way I like it. Great stuff. Okay. Any more for any more? Anything else that you want to get from the session today? And obviously, if you're watching on the replay, then just pop it in the comments, and I'll make sure to circle back to you. Okay, cool. Well, all good. All make complete sense to me. So I'll head back to the slides. Oh my goodness, get rid of my emails. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to dive into some of these limiting beliefs right now. So the reason we do this is because they can look like truths to people, and the reason I'm sharing these with you is not because they're just something I think you need to know. It's because I've seen these same beliefs pop up again and again and again from clients. So these are worth kind of pondering on, and even if you disagree with some of the things that are being said here, just try them on as if they could be true, and just see. Okay, worth having a fresh look at these. So the limiting belief number one. So what people tend to think is that if someone's got a big audience, in other words, they've got big numbers, they've got lots of followers or lots of views or lots of streams, then that automatically means that there's big money attached to it. And it can mean that, so sometimes there are people with hundreds of thousands of YouTube subscribers who are making an absolute killing financially because of the way that they've structured the business and the videos, and the content. But very often it's not the case that just because you've got a large audience that it automatically converts into cash or into income or into people putting their hand up to work with you in some way or to come to a gig. So it's not just about the numbers. I know we've called the thing growing your audience, but this is not just about growing the numbers in the audience, but it's also about growing the quality of the relationships, right? So I've said here that you cannot pay a mortgage or buy a holiday with likes, subs, follows, views, shares, or usually streams. You know, you can if you get a lot of streams, it will be good, but usually they're kind of social proof, you know, in the most part, right? So financial success is actually about understanding the power of service, and that's a key distinction here. So these are a couple of questions that you might want to either jot your answers down to now or go away and think about and sort of formulate. So in terms of your audience, let's say you've got a small audience, or you've maybe got a few people, or even if you've got a large audience, what value do they get? Now, I don't just mean, oh, they get stuff, like they get videos or they get emails to your list, but what is the value of that stuff? Like, why is that valuable to them? How does it serve them? If they were going to explain why they follow you, or why they are your student, or why they would come to a gig, what would they say? What is it that they value? And for a lot of people, you know, it kind of begs the second question, which is, are you really serving them, or are you serving them as deeply and as powerfully as you could? And, you know, by the way, if the answer's no, and you're not serving them as powerfully or as deeply as you could, then that's actually good news, because what that's done is highlight a gap. It's highlighted an opportunity for you. Okay. So that's our first limiting belief. We're going fairly quickly today, and as I said, there'll be more opportunities to sort of go into more depth. I'll be doing some future sessions, but for now we're gonna press on. So the limiting belief number 2 is this idea that people either like you or they don't like you. Right, so people tend to think, or they can think in very black and white terms. So it's either, you know, I put a video out, for example, yes, it's got a like, yes, it's got a comment, or if it hasn't and it's tumbleweed, that means it's a complete failure. It's no value to anybody. They don't like you. What you're doing is a waste of time. So by having that kind of black or white thinking, it gives you a very easy reason to kind of stop creating content. It's like, well, that one didn't work, so it's no value. Or it makes you think that if someone's not responded once, then it means that they're never going to come to a concert, or they're never going to be a student, or they're never going to be a client. And that's just not true. It's certainly not true in my experience with the people that I've worked with, and also with my my own business. So this is about value. It's not about being liked. And how valuable people find your work can change over time. I'm going to say that bit again. How valuable people find your work changes over time. So the reason I've put a picture of a kind of old-fashioned measuring scales there is because it's a bit like there's this weighing up that people do. You know, so on the one side, there is the service that you offer, or the product that you offer, or I guess who you're being in the world. So basically you and your stuff on one side. And then on the other side of the balance is the amount of focus and attention and time and money that someone is prepared to invest, right? So what happens is that if they feel that they've given you maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or they've you come to a workshop like this for 60 minutes or whatever, if they feel that they've put in an amount of time and they don't feel like it's been worth their time back, then all that means is that the scales haven't fully tipped yet. So say, for example, in my case, running a coaching business, there have been people that I've met, we've had a coffee or we've interacted on Facebook. They haven't signed up to be a client straight away because I haven't given them anything. I haven't served them. But when they join my Facebook group, for example, they look at the content or they come to a networking hang, or maybe we end up on a call and I give them some suggestions. They feel like they've got more from me over time. And so the relationship develops. And then after the relationship reaches a certain point in their mind, they then go, actually, knowing this Nick guy's been valuable to me, and I can see why if I then signed up for something on a paid basis that I'd get more. So they kind of, there's this kind of weighing up that people do. And it's not just for coaches. This is a fundamental of when someone gets to the point of buying something, they need to weigh it up. They need to make that decision, like, is it probably going to be a good idea? Or is it probably going to be too risky for me to invest in traveling to a gig or signing up to an online course? Whatever the business is, this is a fundamental kind of underpinning of it. So here what I've said is that in order for someone to actually pay for your product or service, they need to have sufficient proof. In other words, an experience of the value that it offers. So if you're not showing up online, or you're not in a conversation, or you're not creating music, or you're not recording things, they aren't able to have an experience of you. Okay, so success is about harnessing the power of insight. In other words, new thoughts, that their ability to have new thoughts about you and new thoughts about what you have, and new thoughts about the value. When you have these kind of aha moments, this is the power that we're looking at today. This is the thing that people often don't notice. And it's about creating deep relationships. That's the context in which that happens. So limiting belief number 3, and this is probably the one that's most invisible to people, that there are only 2 options. People tend to think, again, in black and white thinking. So they think that basically one option is, I need to constantly be bombarding people with messages and constantly pushing, constantly hustling, constantly telling people about my album, telling people about my EP, telling people they need to sign up. I need to constantly be pushing, or I need to be humble and I need to let the work speak for itself and they will just come to me. Or I just put up a really good website and they will just come to me. So it's either they kind of create this idea that it's either be spammy and pushy and needy and attention seeking, or you wait and be humble. And again, that's kind of this black and white dichotomous thinking. It's just not true that there are other options other than those 2, and there's a kind of middle way when it comes to self-promotion. So by creating carefully targeted content and learning some coaching, sales, leadership skills, kind of like increasing your listening ability and increasing your ability to really get clear on what it's like to be a member of your audience, or what it's like to be a prospective student or someone who would do business with you. What you can do is you can help them to uncover how valuable your music, teaching, or business is to them. So it's about uncovering a pre-existing truth rather than coercing somebody into doing something. Right? It's about uncovering a pre-existing truth rather than coercing somebody to do something. So it's helping them become fully problem aware that they, so I'm thinking about the first time, like, I encounter certain artists, like, I listen to somebody and then go, holy shit, like, I never thought how much I could be moved by harmony, or how much I could be moved by that kind of rhythm. I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize I had a need for that music until I heard it. And so I then it's uncovered like, oh my God, there's more to music than I even thought there was. So that's one example. Or another example might be, that I see a video by somebody and I go, wow, I didn't realize that, if I learnt this one particular skill, then actually it would serve my business. A bit like what we're doing now, so like shining light on the audience's blind spots. It sparks insight again. It sparks fresh thinking. So it's not like it's either them coming to you or you going to them. It's like they're unconsciously coming to you, and all you're doing is helping them become conscious of the fact that they have a need. Right? Is this all making sense so far? Is this we're just going to check in with you guys actually. Like, what are you? There's a question here from Dennis. It says, "What do fans or viewers recognize as value?" Do you want to just hop on the video, Dennis, and have a chat with me about that? What do you mean by that question?
What I mean, we know that if we offer something physical for in exchange for funds, that people will place value monetarily. But what is it that I do that's unique to me to present value to people that might become my fans, that might become my my income base? I mean, what are you talking about there? It's kind of a ubiquitous thing that, when we say value, how would people value me and what I'm presenting?
That's a great question. So before I sort of speak to it, do you have a sense for what would someone say if you asked them? So someone in your audience, do you know what they would say if you said, what do you most value about my music, or what connects with you best? Like, how does my music make you feel? Do you know what they would say?
Based on conversations I've had, just being honest, my guitar playing, my voice, my ability to be genuine when I'm interacting with people. I think that, all three of those things would be big pluses as far as just me selling me.
Great stuff. So for most, and it's a great question, and you've it sounds like you've sensed that there's something to figure out there, because
it has to be something unique to me. There's lots of guys out there.
Sure.
There's lots of clowns that can play guitar and sing. There's lots of people, you look at all the groups on Facebook, everybody can write a song. There may be better songs and there may be not so much better songs. And there may be, people that are better at doing certain things.
Yes.
But how do I sit down and identify what my specific value would be to somebody? And again, that's going to be subjective, right?
Of course it is. Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be how that makes them feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working on songs. I've lost family members, lost half my family to a drunk driver one day when they went off on vacation, lost my son to an illness. So I have points of contact. If I can tap into that and present that in a song, that's going to make, some type of a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And so it's going to depend on what resonates with someone else, what the value is to them.
Absolutely. So you
value to me is I'm getting it off my chest. I'm getting it out there. I'm writing about it. It's therapeutic. It allows me an opportunity to be real and connect with people that want to hear and want to hear me sing and play those kind of things. So how do you equate that and present it so that somebody else draws value from it?
Yeah, so the first step is becoming more aware of their point of view. So what I'm saying is that already, like your history, your vibe, your personality, the kind of ideas that come to you, the style of what you're drawn to, your taste.
It's all unique.
It's already unique, and it's already there's already no one else that could see the world and perceive this reality like you do. And because it's so close to you, and so normal to you and it's not just you, it's like it's all of us, like because we are so close to ourselves, we can underestimate the uniqueness. So there seems to be value when I've got people to do this in asking the audience and sort of thinking through what might be logical things that they get from. So typically, you know, like people get a sense of identity, so like they can identify with something about your journey and you kind of represent meaning to them. Or you know, for some musicians there's a kind of educational component where by listening, you know, certainly like in jazz and improvised music, you listen to it and then you know that all the good licks are going to come from that player. So there's something where you,
what was that lick, dude? What were you doing there? Where'd you learn that? How does that
exactly, so that's part of the value.
You become a lot of things.
So it's just so again, we're not going to go into sort of super depth into it, but it's just like to kind of like highlight that the more that you are aware of what's already unique and what's already you know, it's like certain fans are going to be really committed to you. Talk to those most committed people and figure out like what's most resonating with them, because it then gives you a clue about you know, who are your tribe, who are your people,
and then they promote me to their friends. That's the next follow on.
Yeah, so the more anything you can do to kind of interact with them and build those relationships, it makes the whole thing closer, more personal, more real, and less sort of at an arm's length. Okay, awesome. Now, really great question.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so we're going to go into some big ideas. I've kind of spoken to some of these already, but these are kind of a shift in thinking that have proven really powerful when people sort of take on this this way. I'm just going to mute you. Oh, got Richard on the call as well. Great. So big idea number one is this power of service. So really, the typical. Oh, I'm gonna. Oops. Sorry, I've got more people joining us. I've got quite a lot of people. So the focus can start off being on you, you know. So I put blind spots and I put the solution here. I'm still getting a little bit of noise. If you're unmuted, could you please just mute yourself? I don't know if there's someone who's just joined that's kind of unmuted, but if you could just mute, that'd be great, just for the recording. Yeah. So the power of service is shifting attitude away from yourself onto the audience, or onto the value, onto the difference, or to the impact you're making. So I've put some blind spots here that are common. So focusing on you might be a blind spot, or you know, an uncomfortable truth for some people is that actually maybe the music or the show or the service you're providing is not very good and it needs to be a bit better, or more carefully thought through, or more polished, right? Sometimes that's the case. And if it isn't, it's quite important to get that right. I'm kind of assuming that most people have got that nailed, but there's always ways to sort of, you know, make that better. Another blind spot is not giving people a deep enough experience of what you do. So not really giving yourself a chance to actually serve people, or for giving them a chance to experience what you do. Another blind spot is sort of showing up online or showing up in conversations with an aim to please people rather than actually being of service, because many times those two things can conflict, you know. So being authentic and being straight talking, or being a kind of teacher that tells it as it is, or being an artist that really speaks to the heart of something controversial, you know, you risk not being liked, but part of what's powerful in a relationship is that kind of authenticity, that kind of honesty and sort of real depth of connection with who you really are, rather than who you're pretending to be, right? Another blind spot is not knowing what your audience actually values. So we talked a little bit about that. And the solution is knowing that it's not about you, it's about listening to them and understanding your audience better, building lifelong relationships, and serving fearlessly. Something I talk about a lot is selfless, loving service. I've done a lot of work with clients on kind of having that mindset shift towards that as a way of being in everything that you do. So big idea number two is the power of insight. So you've got a little light bulb moment there, and then you've got someone clicking the buy button, right? So we talked about this a little bit before. So the power of insight. So this is really making it super easy for people to change their attitude to you, or change their experience of you, or to start valuing what you do more by noticing, right? So and we talked about it a little bit when I was speaking to Dennis, but like if you don't know enough about who you want to serve, then it's harder to target them, it's harder to speak directly to them. Also, if you're not visible to them, if you don't show up very often, if you don't reach out to people, or you don't start conversations, or you don't gig or play out very much, or you don't go live, or you don't have a Facebook group, or you don't have an audience of some kind that you're showing up to on a fairly regular basis, then they're not going to really remember you. They're not going to know what is the value that you can offer. And I've also said about making it easy for them to be visible to you. So, I talk a lot about relationships, but when people aim for kind of numbers rather than building these deep, lifelong relationships, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. I'm not going to read through every single one of these because I'm conscious of the time here, but what I've put for the solution is making relationships your priority, and building content around the insights that you want to spark. And what most musicians often don't notice is that actually if you study coaching skills, or what is traditionally called sales skills or leadership skills, in some depth, then you get very good at helping people to spark insights. It's helping them to have insights, realizations, changes of attitude that helps them become clearer on their problem, clearer on the solution, and then clearer on the action that they need to take. So it's really about studying how beliefs change, or they can be changed. So it's kind of stepping up to the plate and sort of taking on more of a leadership role in sort of leading people to a new way of being, right? Which is really related to big idea number 3, which is the power of creation. Okay, so in fact, I'll just go back actually. So the reason I've mentioned this one is because very often, and this is particularly to do with the self-promotion, marketing, generating sales, growing an audience. Like, we can spend so much time studying the craft, using our power of creation to, practice, or to read books, or to study with a teacher. But when it comes to growing our business, or our audience, or structuring our content, it's almost like we kind of give up that power that we have. So big idea number 3, the power of creation, is really tapping into your power as a leader to make it happen. So it's not about controlling everything like a control freak, but it's about knowing that, there are certain things that you can do that are at your disposal that can improve your business, that can improve your profits, that can improve your relationships. And it's not like they either like you or they don't, that there's specific things that you can do that nurture a community and that really serve them, and that leads them along the journey to go, oh yeah, I'll come to the concert, or oh yeah, I'll actually hit subscribe and I'll comment on something, or I'll show up and and go on a sales call and see if some coaching or teaching or something is a fit for them. So it's leading them along and showing them, being the person that knows the way, right? So the blind spots here is that people tend to think that sales and persuasion is an event, right? But it's actually a process that someone goes on. So sales and persuasion is a process, not an event. And people have these fears. They have the fear that they're being too pushy, or the fear that they're not going to be liked, or fear that they're not ready to really go on stage or lead something. and so they don't show up, or they don't serve people as fully as they could do. Or what they do is, they maybe have a sense of the value that they could offer, but they focus too much on information. In other words, they try and tell people about their gig, or tell people about their music, or they send a message. I get a lot of this, people send me messages telling me that I should subscribe, but I'm not going to do it because I'm told to. I'm going to do it because there's been a transformation, a different opinion, a belief change, an experience that I've had that makes me go, oh yeah, I have a relationship with this person and there's a reason. Right? And very often also people underestimate the value of what you actually have to offer. So it's about you becoming more fully aware of your quote unquote value to the customers and audience. So this is about leadership. Yeah, it's about taking people on an experiential journey, not an intellectual one, and it's about making the benefits really tangible to them. So helping join up the dots for them, and understand the structure of the customer journey. So where they start, what they need to see, what they need to learn, what they need to experience in order to get to the point where they become a customer, or they become a client or a student. And so, like I said, it's about learning some coaching skills, or learning some teaching skills, and also taking a stand for something. So being prepared to be the person that bangs the drum for your cause, or for your product or service. Right, so we're about at 1:45 at the moment, and that's where we're going to draw things to a little bit of a close in terms of the content of the presentation. But we've got a little bit of time for some Q&A. But before we do the Q&A, I'd just like you to just reflect on this. What's one step that you could take to apply what you have learned right now? So what I'd love for you to do is maybe go away and implement something. So maybe one idea could be to be the person that reaches out to a new student that that they're ready to work with you, but you actually haven't pulled the trigger and been the person that's started the conversation. Or maybe you're not really posting very much about your playing and you're just not visible online. But what would be one tangible step that after watching this you then go away and do? I'd love to hear these actually in the comments actually. So what's something that you can go away and action straight away? Just pop these in the chat here if there's something that's springing to mind. This is a great one. Listening to my audience as to what they want and need. Great stuff. Setting a meeting in place on a regular basis, says Dennis. Anything else? Anything else? Come on. What else we got? Any more for any more? Nope. Let me see if there's anything on the chat in the group. Oh, no. Where's that? Any more? Can't see comments. I might be able to see them later. Sarah says, work out what I value most about my service. Nice. Okay, cool. Well, okay, listening to my audience, Victor. Appreciate the middle ground part of promoting myself. Yeah, that's a really big one, actually. Richard says, record high quality live music and release some on the website and social channels. Yeah. So if they can't experience it, it's going to be harder for them to fall in love with it. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got best part of 15 minutes or so before we hit the hour. So I'm going to open up the floor. If there's any questions, if there's anything that's sort of been sparked, or you want to make an observation, or you want to ask me something specific to clarify something that's been said, now's your chance. You've got about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. So feel free just to wave at me or pop a question in the chat if you want to, or unmute yourself and have a call. Chat. Is that you, Sarah?
Can you see me? Sorry, I've got the sun behind me.
Yeah. Have you got a question?
Yeah. So you said sales and persuasion is a process, not an event. That's a really interesting quote, which everything you're saying makes me feel like I am that needy person. I can't help myself. So what would you say was a good day of promoting yourself?
Ooh.
Like, what would you do in terms of posting? You know, how many times a day do you think isn't coming across needy?
Well, so I'm hesitant, particularly on this call. I'm hesitant to say that this is the right number, because I know that everybody's business is going to be different and everybody's at different stages. And sometimes, you know, and I've certainly done it. Like when I was launching the book, like I was going live constantly because it's like, pay attention, this thing is launching, pay attention, I want this out in the world. And it doesn't, just because you're doing it a lot doesn't necessarily mean that it's needy. It's what's being pointed to here is more the place that it's coming from. You know, so if for most people, you know, when they're a student or when they're you know, falling in love with music, all their attention is on what they create as a musician themselves, and it's all about them learning to play better and them doing something and them becoming a better musician. It's all about me, and that's useful to be able to have that kind of thinking, because it gives you a sense of, you know, yourself as a musician or what have you. But when it comes to communicating that, the shift is towards being of value to people, even if it means that actually you might not be liked, or you might people might not agree with you. So it's kind of posting for a reason, or reaching out to somebody for a reason. You know, because some people might say, well, you know, because I do this, you know, sometimes we'll message someone if I think I can help them, and some people will say, not the ones I tend to reach out to, but other people say as a blanket kind of thing, they say, well, if anybody reaches out to me in a personal message, that's pushy. But it's not as simple as that, because it depends on the relationship. Because sometimes people, like, say, because I know that you you teach people, you're also a performer, and you offer you know, a subscription online. I know that you know, there will be reasons why people join your subscription. There'll be reasons why people sign up as a student. So the clearer you are about the reason and what they're going to get, and you focus all of your content and all of your interactions on getting them what they want, or giving them something that you know would be valuable, or that you're excited about giving to them, then it's making the focus the service rather than you or them, or you know, what you're going to get or what they're going to think. It's about, it's a kind of love. I've said this, you know, to you before, that it's a kind of loving service. So it's kind of connecting with that more and more. You see?
Yeah.
So we're talking more about a dialogue, right?
Well, yeah, a relationship. Yeah.
Because there's an exchange going on there.
Yeah, you becoming more aware of them becoming more aware of you, or the whole thing becoming more aware of itself. You know?
Like being intentional.
Yeah. So sometimes something I've been guilty of, for example, is just, oh, you know, I haven't posted for a while, I need to be visible, so I'll post something, and it's not always coming from a place of service. You'll probably see that in some.
I mean, I've actually cut down my posts, but I feel like I go live on different platforms, and sometimes I see the same person on all of the lives, and I think that person is going to think I'm so desperate, but it's not. It's because I want to be visible in every platform, and then they just follow me around Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. They're like, oh, hello again, Sarah. I'm like, oh no, but that's not how I want it to look. I'm basically being intentional because I want to see them people on that platform, you know.
But it probably doesn't, you know, it's worth checking, or it's worth kind of, you know, not worrying too much about yourself in that case, and just checking with some of those people, because you know, this is something I've noticed with my community here. It's like, I do a webinar and there are some people that no matter what's happening, if I'm doing something, they're there. It's like, that's because we've got a relationship and they value what I do.
Oh,
like,
but they won't pay.
Go ahead. What?
But some won't pay for it.
Well, that and that's okay though. So that's okay. So it's like, I know that, you know, I've got a community here, and it's the same for anything. Like, there's going to be a proportion of people that will only kind of dip their toe in the water, and, you know, like yourself, that there are people who go deeper into the coaching process or the learning process or the you know, the relationship with an artist, and they, you know, there are some people who will follow a band round from one corner of the planet to another, you know, because they just value it so much, and they become like super fans. So you want to make it easy. If people want to do that, then let them, you know, like if people want to show up to everything I do in this group and they think it's valuable, like, great, cool, because I'm showing up to everything I do and I'm enjoying myself, and I think it's you know, I'm aiming to make it valuable. I'm just I guess, like, you want to make sure that if somebody does show up to everything, they're going to get something different out of each interaction. There's going to be something specific. So if you're repeating a lot of stuff, I can see that might be, you know,
So don't feel like that, you know, that they, because they're not subscribed to me financially, doesn't mean they don't value me, you mean?
Yeah, and also don't think that just because they haven't subscribed so far doesn't mean they're as far away from doing it as you think they are.
They won't. Maybe they'll look at. Maybe they'll. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was speaking to a client today, like, he's saying, "Oh, you know, I've burnt my bridges with some clients or some students." So, well, hang on, you know, I've had some people that have been a no to working with me, and then, you know, a year later, 2 years later, they've gone, actually, that was really useful, or I've seen that you've changed and now I want to work with you, or I've changed and I want to work with you. So people, you know, this is what I'm saying, like, it's a dynamic process. This, what they think of you and what they value in what you do, it's dynamic, it changes over time.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
All righty, cool. Any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes left. Nate.
I'm just going to offer something here, Nick. It's just
Go for it,
question
Richard. Then we'll go to Nate next. Yep.
Yeah. It was just sometimes you never know when, what you're going to be interested in. For example, like when Jackson Browne was popular back in the late 60s, early 70s, I didn't know then how much of a fan I would be now, 40 years later. And I just love the guy. So what I found, even for myself from personal experience 45 years ago, I didn't know I was searching. When I realized that, I stopped searching, and then all of these insights started to flow in because I was just more awake and more conscious of who I am. The lessons I had was less is more, quality over quantity, simplicity over complexity. Make it easy for people to engage with you is super important. I mean, that's also a fundamental rule of marketing, is make it easy for your customers to do business with you.
Yeah.
You know, if you put a door in front of the buy cart, you're not going to sell anything.
Yeah. Nice one. And I like what you said about, you know, that relationship. I remember the first time, I mean, literally, I can't believe this, but like literally the first time I listened to Sibelius, the Sibelius violin concerto, hated it, and now absolutely love it. And my relationship with Sibelius's music has changed. Same with Stevie Wonder. I heard one of his worst songs back when I was a kid. I thought, no, he's rubbish. And it's like, it took me many years before I like, Songs in the Key of Life is a masterpiece and it's my favorite.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like my relationship with Stevie Wonder's music has transformed, and the starting point was I hated it, absolutely hated. I Just Called to Say I Love You. Like I just hated that. So that was the first time I saw on TV. So yeah, so I loved what you said. It changes, and so by keeping going and by making it easy for that evolution to keep happening, the right people will show up next, and then the ones who are kind of cooking a bit and will come back later, they'll do their thing. But you just keep cracking on with what you're doing, and the right people will do the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Another thing I found too is that if we stop evolving, we stop living. So we have to be open-minded to see what is coming and embrace it and understand it for what it is.
Super. Good stuff. I'm going to go to Nate next. Thanks, Richard. Nate, what's your question or observation? Or come in, Nate.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it was just the question that was in the chat. In regards to, I find that always an issue, because what I want from a live show is not what the majority of people want from a live show. You know, I'll poll people and, hey, what gets you out? What gets you out? And they're like, oh, a cool venue, nice vibe, good friends, big dance floor. And I'm like, oh, what about musicianship? What about this? What about that? And all this kind of stuff. So I've learned that what I want, what it takes to get me out of the door is different than what it takes a lot of people to get out of the door.
Sure.
So then the question is, how do you, I mean, I poll people on Facebook, but what's another good way to find out what people really want? And then more importantly, how much of your shtick, for lack of a better word, should you change and be willing to compromise or evolve, depending on how you look at it? Compromise or evolve could be the same thing. So how much of that do you change once you have that information?
That's a great question, and it's worth me flagging. You know, and I'm glad you asked that, because it can seem like I'm saying, you know, basically bend to exactly what they want and don't have any kind of artistic integrity. And I'm not saying that at all. Like,
I don't think you are. So yeah, I'd love to clarify. Get some clarity.
That, you know, there's a great video that's worth googling. Many of you may have seen it, about David Bowie talking about playing to the gallery, and like how he said that you know, when he felt like he was trying to do things that were just commercial, like he kind of felt like he was selling out, and he felt like he'd lost his sense of identity. I think what this is, rather than kind of listening to the audience and what they say and then kind of changing things to fit them, I think this is more about you being willing to ask the question, being willing to notice, being willing to kind of become more aware of their point of view. And it's not to say that you have to change things to please them, but at least if you know how they're perceiving, if you know that they like a nice, you know, if they want to go and dance, or they know that, you know, the kind of image of the band, I'm just making this up, but like if that's something that's really important, it's possibly useful information to you. You know, if it's something that really makes it you know, a strong part of the brand, as it were, then maybe it's worth keeping. But ultimately, you know, the same, you know, as a composer or any kind of creator, like ultimately the buck stops with your creativity, your intuition about what's right to do. So, you know, if there's any doubt, I would point people back to their own, you know, their own wisdom about what's the right thing artistically to do. And with the caveat that if you want to make money from doing that, then the only place that your music is going to be valued is in their perception, is in their awareness of what you are. So it's not going to be your opinion or your ideas of why you're doing it that matter. It's going to be theirs that then will be the deciding factor of whether they will actually pay for something or whether they'll actually commit. So it's really about a communication and really deepening your empathy and understanding of their point of view. That's really what this is about. And then if you're making a kind of bold decision, you've got a sort of stronger foundation to base it on.
Well, that makes sense, because I have a tendency, you know, you read Miles Davis autobiography or someone else, you know, strong-minded, and you're like, nope, I'm going to do what I want to do, and screw them because they're stupid and they don't know what they're missing. You know what I mean? So you can, but that attitude can only be so successful under the right circumstances. Yeah. So I think so yeah, just being willing to be aware and understanding that the audience may have a different goal in mind than what you're presenting, I think is probably important, just that awareness. So thank you.
Yeah. So that's another one of those kind of either or thinking things. Like, you know, some people will go, I'm not going to be a sellout, so fuck you all, basically, you know, like I'm going to do whatever I want. It's either like confrontation on the one hand, or it's selling out, right? And actually there's a middle way where you can take a stand for something that you believe in, but you can do it in a loving way. Right. It makes it, you know, so that you can respectfully disagree and welcome them, you know, that they kind of value the diversity, they value the difference, the different perspective that you bring, without feeling like they need to they're not being
fight you.
Huh?
Without the need to fight you.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to. I mean, Miles is a good example, because he was more on the kind of confrontational end of the spectrum, shall we say. So yeah, great example.
Cool, thanks.
That's what, man. Okay, Richard.
I just had a closing thought here. There's a friend of mine who's also the well, he's a guitar, mandolin player, lyricist, songwriter, singer in the band I play in. And he self-recorded a 15-song CD, and I helped him out with designing the CD jacket, building a website, including a store. And then he was kind of, well, nobody's buying it. And I said, well, are you telling anybody about it? And like, like he really missed the point of, in order for you to sell your music, you have to share that it's there. And he said, well, that's not me. You know, I don't want to appear to be coming off as if I'm selling. And I said, well, so answer this. What was the point of doing your CD? Well, I just want to share my music. So I said, well, why don't you give it away and just build your fan base? The next time you're ready to launch another CD that might sell because you got a bigger fan base, but he still doesn't promote it. His Facebook page is almost dormant. He doesn't spend any time just sharing himself, and he's got a great personality. He's really upbeat. He's positive. He's written over 100 songs. He can just crack one off in an hour, complete with, you know, lyrics and everything else. And he writes sometimes about the most humorous things. That one of them was the ode to the doorknob. Well, what happened was the city of Vancouver passed a bylaw that
I've lost you a bit, Richard.
Doorknobs had to be the lever.
Oh, I've lost you there, buddy.
So,
lost the connection.
It was just. Oh well, the ode to the doorknob was the city of Vancouver introduced for leaves because they're easier to open. You can, with your elbow or whatever, turn it. So that was the ode, was to the old doorknob.
But what
looks
what
like you lost me again.
What a wonderful kind of I'm going to say eccentric, but you know, what a wonderfully like enriching experience to sort of be invited into a creative's world like that. That's value. I find that valuable to hear that story, and so you know, so that's, you know, it beautifully highlights, you know, what we're talking about. That the you know, it's one thing to kind of know that we should be visible or putting ourselves out there, but often it's that someone is holding back because they maybe think that they're going to be perceived a certain way. So there's definitely some, you know, for many people, there's definitely some mindset stuff to kind of tackle, and it often has a big leverage for that. So no, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That. So what we're going to do, thanks man. What we're going to do now, just to sort of wrap things up, I just want to kind of like stay true to my promise at the very end. So if you have any questions about what we said today, feel free to sort of pop things on the live stream thread, or you can send me an email. So my email is nick@nickbottini.com, or you can send me a Facebook message or what have you. If you would like a bonus, the bonus audio that I'm giving to people, that I give to my one-to-one clients, then drop me a message or an email. If you're already a one-to-one client, because I know that there's some people who will watch this, or there's people on the call who are. So if you're already a client, then we'll just have a chat and I'll give you something else that's also useful to you. There's going to be more of these kind of workshops like this. So the next one we're going to do is going to specifically talk about the mindset stuff that holds people back from actually actioning this stuff. Because it's one thing to maybe know what you should be doing or know what the problems are, but very often there's some thinking that gets in the way. So the next one's going to be about that. So I'll give you some more information about that soon. But apart from that, that is all for tonight, folks. So it's lovely to be joined by you, and we'll see you soon. I love you and leave you. Take care. Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.